Greetings and salutations, my name is Delthea. I'm doing Fire Emblem Heroes, reviewing Delthea, the Free Spirit. This blue tome infantry was first released during Alm's army banner and has a lot going for it besides just that little peeking tooth. We'll talk about her stats, discuss some good IVs, compare her to her contemporaries, and evaluate all of her matchups, as well as discuss some build options ranging from the cheap to the top shelf builds. But before all of that, let's get her digits. As a rule of thumb, I like to take a look at stats, and if there's an attack stat that's 35 or higher, it turns my head. If there's a defensive stat of 32 or higher, it turns my head. And so with that guideline in mind, we do have a lot to look at here. Attack of 36, that's wonderful. If you have an attack of 36 on anybody, that hopefully means you could build them into something really great, especially with skill inheritance. Speed 34 is one lower than I like to see, and this is actually the stat that you want to get your boons in. Of course, attack is also really good, and if you get a boon in defense and res, there's purposes for that, and we'll go ahead and discuss those later. But let's take a look at that defense. 13, youch. At this point in time, unless it's a gem wielder, you should just assume that everybody who smacks you is going to kill you. Just assume that you're really not that far from being wrong. And that's also the stat that we might as well have a Bane in. So if you're really lucky, you're going to get a plus speed minus defense. If you have a different set of IVs, it's not a lost cause. We just have to build her differently and have different sets of expectations from her. 33 hit points, of course, also is terrible. It's not exactly strange to see low hit points on a mage, but as we will find out in a moment, this is really, really terrible. But the resistance is high, 31. That's high for anything, really, let alone to have on a mage, and so we could definitely abuse that there. So when it comes down to it, her base stat spread is pretty good, 147 total, which also isn't bad for a maid. Let's compare her to some of her contemporaries. Looking at hit points, yeah, she's at the bottom of the barrel here with her 33. Odin, of course, has the most out of all the blue mages. LInde is right in the middle. We're going to be comparing Delthea to LInde quite a lot here. But over here on the attack front, she has the highest attack along with May. That 36 is wonderful. Male Robin being right in the middle, and then Odin being at the bottom. Speed-wise, LInde beats out Delthea here, and May, of course, is pretty much the slowest one here. Defense-wise, it's not surprising. We see Male Robin at the top, Delthea at the bottom. Owen is one of the people who sits right in the middle. Resistance-wise, we're also not too surprised here to see Delthea at the top. LInde is also pretty much in the middle of the pack as far as resistance. And, well, Male Robin's at the absolute bottom of this one. Let's take a look at the obituary. 74 wins, 8 losses, 70 draws. We're talking about 49% of the field we are winning against. 5% of them are killing us, and 46 are sort of lingering there. 81% of these matchups are in our favor, but that is sort of skewed as it is for most range users, because you don't have that many melee users that have any kind of distant counter, which is to be expected, and that happens. But you know what? We'll take a win where we can get one, and right now we're looking at some of the more notable wins on our screen. Not to insult your intelligence, but here we see an Ike, we see a Celica, we see a Spring Camilla, we see Reinhardt, we see Ryoma. There's a lot here to be happy with. And as a matter of fact, the only distant counter user here that isn't represented is Camus. And, well, he's represented on the next list. As far as who actually punks us down, it is Camus, it is Hector. Quit initiating against Hector. You do not need to initiate against Hector. Excuse me. We have Kagero, and of course we have LInde here as well. These are the people that really can hurt us, and that's whenever we go on to initiation. Whenever we are initiated on, 16, 50, and 86. Those numbers are not pretty. So we definitely have a hero that is a bit thin and can't take a hit. But I think there's some things that we can go ahead and do to work around that. But before we get there, let's talk about what she comes with. Dark Aura, a Might 14 tome. Wow, that gives her 50 attack with neutral IVs. That is wonderful. This sucker grants adjacent allies a buff of 6 attack as long as they're sword, axe, lance, or dragonstone users. So you're not going to be comboing her with mages, you're not going to be comboing her with archers or daggers. But everybody else is going to get 6 attack if they start next to her. That is a hone bonus, it's not going to stack with hone attack. But you know what? This is just wonderful. This is arguably much better than LInde's healing that normal aura grants. And I think everybody's really gonna be happy to see this in action. She has a special, Miracle, cooldown of 5, and this is the one that if you have 1 hit point on your turn and you were to be knocked down to 0 or lower, you still live, which is great because, you know, we saw earlier that she just can't really take too many hits unless it's from a mage that's not green. So her special does help her survive quite well. Unfortunately, with the cooldown of 5, you're not going to be using this very early in the fight. You have to make sure that she paces herself, and so arguably it might not even come into play. But if it does help you out, you're going to enjoy that +6 bonus all that much longer. As for the rest of her kit, her A slot comes with Death Blow 3, a wonderful skill, +6 attack whenever you initiate, 56 attack whenever she swings. This is fantastic. You're going to be dealing a lot of damage to people. And the people who don't fall over are going to suffer the wrath of Dark Aura and Drive Attack 2, her C slot. So between this spur bonus of 3 and the home bonus that's on her tome, that's +9 attack to melee, infantry, horses, flyers, armor. Wow. Who doesn't want +9 attack when they swing? And Delthea is a pretty decent nuker as well, not as good as LInde. She's going to be compared to LInde often, but when it comes down to it, while she misses a few matchups, she exchanges that healing power that LInde had for pure raw damage. And I think a lot of people are going to really favor Delthea over top of LInde just because of this. Now we're going to start to take a look at some build options for Delthea, starting with some budget builds, because after all she is missing a few skill slots. Let's go ahead and fill them up and make sure that she's getting her full potential. I really recommend Reposition as far as an assistant skill on this, because it either puts a melee unit that has been buffed a lot closer to the enemy so they could just charge right in there, or it puts a wall in between her and danger because once again, she's not taking a hit. As far as the B slot goes, there are tons of skills that work well with her, guys, but the only two I'm going to highlight here are Desperation and Renewal. Desperation is great because she has that 34 base speed. If you're a plus speed IV, that means you're looking at 37. You're going to be doubling a lot of people. Renewal is there because she can take at least a hit from non-green mages, but she'll only be able to take 1. And unless you've been attacking a lot and going through a chain trial, you're not going to have miracles all spun up. So Renewal is there so that you can go ahead and make sure that you live long enough to get to use Miracle. And from that, you will be able to get to use Miracle again, and again, and again, and again. This is going to be a great skill to put in place on her if you're having troubles with specific Grand Hero battles and other puzzly type maps that have mages on the other side. You'll be able to tank at least a couple of hits with her using Renewal. Let's go ahead and take a look at a Blade Tome build. She's not too far behind LInde once again. Blarblade is here for you. I recommend Swap. It's something I've been tinkering around with recently, so honestly this recommendation is not completely vetted, and I'm sorry, but it seems to work well in this particular case. Whenever you're trying to get a unit like this buffed, you get in corners, you get stuck in places. Rearranging in tight spaces so that you get your maximum amount of buffs is great, especially if you're not just packing an Ephraim or an Erica with you. You really need to be able to get next to people, and Swap is going to do that for you. Moonbow is there for extra damage as you go along. Life and Death 3 is my recommendation. You could do Fury, and it does help you get into desperation range, but when it comes down to it, Life and Death is something you're going to seriously want to consider putting on top of a Blade Tome user like this. And she keeps her Drive attack too. Why not? You know, give everybody else something to do whenever they actually get to swing at an enemy once in a while. Not like anybody's going to do that. This build is a beast. 92, 14, 46. You're going to be devastating the battlefield. If you don't have a Blade Tome user in blue, if you don't have a Blade Tome user period, you definitely want to consider this. If you already have a blue Blade Tome user, however, you're not necessarily missing out too much. She's right now the second best one in the game, though. So if you're not too happy with your current one, maybe you could go ahead and use them to do a little bit of skill inheritance. I'm not telling you what to do, just, you know, a recommendation here. If you're hoping that you could get a lot more mileage out of her for not spending a lot, then I can help you out there. Let's just go ahead and substitute that Death Blow for Darting Blow. Speed is her friend in this case, and it gets her a lot more kills. We're looking at 88, 7, and 57 at that point in time. Desperation 3 is going to work wonders on her with that speed bump that we're getting from Darting Blow. Otherwise, you can put Reposition on her to help her out like we talked about before. Leave Dark Aura, leave Miracle, leave Drive Attack 2. Those are all okay skills, if not the best skills for her at this point in time. And you're going to get a lot of mileage out of this build, and it's really cheap. You're talking 2 4-star units here, so you're not necessarily breaking the bank in any regard. If you're looking for a blue mage that's not a nuker for some reason, then I have a build for you. Keep the Dark Aura, keep the Miracle, keep the Drive Attack 2. Give her Rally Defense Res. That combo skill is going to get you a lot of mileage out of things. She could go ahead and buff people that are going to take a hit for her, and that's wonderful. Defiant Res 3, what this is doing is it's extending her ability to be able to tank non-green mages, or just be able to initiate against non-green mages for a little bit longer without using something like Desperation. Instead, we're putting in Renewal 3. The longevity in this build is amazing. Her kill record is tanked compared to other things. 49, 9, and 94 is what we're looking at here. But her endurance is incredible. If you're having problems buffing people, if you're having problems keeping mages around, if you're having problems handling ranged mages, even, you know, dragons. I mean, heck, resistance is resistance. If you're having problems along those wavelengths, you could definitely build out your Delthea this way, and she's going to take it. The Defiant Resistance, as long as you're not engaging any melee units, is going to come into play quite often. It's not so much a gimmick in this case, it's something that's, I don't want to say guaranteed, but it's going to come into play. It's going to work. And so if you're having that kind of issue, then this is the build for you. I'm not saying go out there and build this. I think there's a lot better things you could do with a unit like Delthea. But if you already have LInde, and you just want to buff everybody, and you want to know what to do with her in the meantime, having a mobile magic wall is actually pretty decent, because after all, she's probably not going to be doing anything other than buffing and supporting everybody else anyway. And lastly, if you want to use her in a defensive team, I'm not too sure why, but here's the best effort I got for you. If you give her Fury 3 and Seal Attack Speed 2, you are going to make people regret attacking you. Fury 3 gives you that stat bump all the way across the board, which is wonderful. People are going to want to target Delthea because of her Dark Aura and Drive Attack 2. And of course she has Moonbow there just to make it seem like that she's supposed to be there to nuke. But really, for the most part, she's there meant to attract attention. Whenever the opponents have Fury in their A slot, hence that asterisk there, 23, 46, and 83 on defense. If she actually gets that swing in there, she still has a lot of attack power in here, guys. We haven't crippled that. And Moonbow is still there. Fury 3 means that we have a good speed, and if you have the IVs for it, or if you actually have plus defense, or plus res IVs, then that's actually really ideal. Even if you have your Banes in attack and speed, having a defensive Delthea like this isn't a bad idea. Like I said, it's pretty much just there as bait, and if the people don't take the bait, then she's going to be buffing all the infantry users. I suggest running Ike or Ryoma or your Alphonse that you put distant counter on next to her, and it's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to definitely get a couple of wins out of this if you do something like that. And hey, do me a favor, if you're on mobile, rotate your phone into portrait mode. If you're on desktop, hit escape to leave full screen mode, and click that like button if I gave you something to chew on. If you've missed some of the latest Fire Emblem Hero news, tap or click on one of the links on the left, and if you like your information hot and fresh like grandma's cookies, click that subscribe button. My name is Delthea, and thank you guys so much, I greatly appreciate all of you, and until next time, take it easy.